From Robert Pattinson and his hilarious thoughts on Edward Cullen to Viola Davis expressing some serious concerns over portraying Aibileen Clark. These are some actors who admitted to hating their iconic roles. Starting with Robert Pattinson and the way he constantly roasted Edward Cullen's character, being part of such a massive pop culture phenomenon as Twilight can be a double-edged sword. Robert Pattinson didn't hold back when it came to expressing his hatred for Twilight. He thought the whole story was just plain weird. Can you blame him? Playing an angsty vampire who sparkles in the sunlight for multiple movies must have been quite the challenge. In fact, Pattinson had some serious questions about his character. He couldn't understand why a centuries-old vampire would be smitten with a high school girl. He even joked that if Edward were a real person, he might just be an axe murderer. Talk about taking a dark turn. But that's not the worst of his unhinged comments on the franchise. When he was asked if he took any souvenirs from the set of the final film, Breaking Dawn Part 2, he simply replied, "My dignity." It seems like Pattinson was more than happy to say goodbye to Edward Cullen after that last film. But let's give credit where credit's due. Sometimes the things we dislike end up pushing us in unexpected directions. In Pattinson's case, it led to some pretty remarkable acting opportunities. In hindsight, the actor seems to have grown past his hatred and learned to appreciate the movie more. However, not every bad movie has become a cult classic. Some actors choose to keep their worst roles buried deep in the past, like Ryan Reynolds making sure no one associated him with Green Lantern. It's no surprise to anyone that Ryan didn't have a great time with that superhero gig. He's called it his Plan B for a superhero role. In interviews, he spilled the beans on the challenges and frustrations he faced during the making of the movie. The CGI suit and the script issues were really hard to ignore. He joked that he only did the movie so he could afford a nice down payment on a new house. Look at him now. Reynolds' success with Deadpool seems to have made up for any Green Lantern disappointments. He has now created a whole new superhero persona that fans absolutely love. He definitely didn't waste any time poking fun at his Green Lantern character when he took on the role of Deadpool. Reynolds managed to kill off his past self before he accepted the Green Lantern role within the Deadpool universe. It was a hilarious and self-aware move on Reynolds' part. It showcases his ability to make fun of himself and turn a less-than-ideal superhero experience into comedic gold. But as it turns out, not all actors were able to find humor in their roles, especially when you're Jamie Dornan playing the controversial Christian Grey. Jamie Dornan's feelings about his role as Christian Grey in the 50 Shades series were anything but pleasant. It's no secret that he wasn't a fan of stepping into those steamy shoes. He said that he wasn't a fan of the intense and explicit nature of the story. He's been open about not missing the role and wanting to move on from that world. From period dramas to thrilling movies, he's been seeking out roles that challenge him. It's like he's on a mission to break free from that dominant billionaire stereotype. Even though Jamie Dornan wasn't a fan of his Christian Grey days, he's worked actively to shake off that shade of gray. In the end, Jamie has moved on from this role, but there are others who are stuck portraying a character they completely despise. Penn Badgley hates his psycho killer character, Joe Goldberg. He doesn't care to hide his hatred for his iconic character in the show You. You can't blame him though, it's hard to like a sadistic stalker, you know? But here's the thing. A lot of viewers of the show actually romanticize Joe. That really rubs Badgley the wrong way. He has to actively tell off viewers who want him to kidnap them. Despite his absolute dislike for Joe, Badgley can't deny that the show knows how to surprise its audience. He's impressed by the twists and turns that keep viewers on the edge of their seats. Even though he hates the character, he can appreciate a good plot twist. But get this, after season 2 dropped, Badgley said there's no reason for fans to root for Joe anymore. He's not interested in Joe becoming some kind of heartthrob. To top it off, Badgley wants to see Joe taken down in season 5 of You. He's all for Joe finally facing the consequences of his actions. He plays the guy, so he probably has some say in how it all goes down, right? If anyone knows what's best for Joe, it's the actor himself. Joe better watch out, because if Badgley has his way, that dude is getting what he deserves. There is no happy ending for Mr. Goldberg. In the end, it's refreshing to see an actor stand up against the idea of a murderous heartthrob. Badgley isn't the only one who found issues in his character's personality. Jacob Elordi had a lot to say about how problematic Noah Flynn was in the kissing booth. It's not like he hated the guy, but he did have some mixed feelings about the character. Elordi was upfront about the challenges he faced and the aspects of Noah's personality that didn't vibe with him. One of the things that got to him was the perfect boyfriend image that Noah had going on. Elordi did find Noah's behavior to be the complete opposite of desirable or romantic. He felt like it didn't represent real-life relationships and set up some unrealistic expectations for the audience. He wanted to make sure that the character's flaws were out there for everyone to see. But Elordi's perspective on Noah might have evolved as time went on. He's grateful for the opportunities that the kissing booth brought him, but at the same time, he's eager to take on different roles and push himself as an actor. Jacob's concerns were more about how the character was portrayed and the impact it could have on young viewers. But while his role helped him kickstart his career, we can't say the same for others. Jennifer Lawrence saw hers go downhill as Aurora Lane. Adele, the queen of Grammy wins, warned Jennifer Lawrence about doing that sci-fi flop Passengers back in 2016. Lawrence was already feeling a bit hesitant about taking on the role. She was scared to let her fans down after her iconic role in The Hunger Games. She didn't want to disappoint her loyal following, but despite the warning, Lawrence went ahead and made the movie anyway. Afterward, she was left scratching her head, wondering who on earth thought it was a good idea. In interviews, Lawrence hasn't held back when expressing her dislike for Aurora. She's called out the character's lack of agency and how she was reduced to being a plot device or love interest. Lawrence isn't alone in her thoughts on Passengers. The film was met with mixed reviews and didn't exactly set the box office on fire. Sometimes, even the biggest stars make questionable choices, but she's acknowledged that there were aspects of the movie that she enjoyed, despite her dislike for her character. Unfortunately, we can't say the same for Viola Davis and her reservations about her role as Aibileen Clark in The Help. She had some mixed feelings about it, and she's been upfront about it too. Davis didn't want to be limited to certain roles as a black actress in Hollywood. In interviews, she's spoken about the complexities of Aibileen and how she wanted to go beyond just a typical portrayal. She wanted to show the struggles and experiences of Black women during that time period in a real and genuine way. Characters like Aibileen and Minnie are quite personal to her, as they remind her of her own grandma and mom. But turns out, she felt that the voices of the maids weren't given enough importance in the movie. And you know what? She's got a point. It's important to give a platform to those unheard voices. This is much more important for stories of racial inequality and the struggles faced by these communities. Davis wanted to see more of that in the film, and she didn't feel like it was delivered. But despite any reservations she may have had, Davis knocked it out of the park with her powerful performance as Aibileen. That woman can act. Now, she's using her platform to push for change and better representation in the industry. And that's pretty awesome. So, from Viola Davis expressing some serious concerns over portraying Aibileen Clark to Robert Pattinson and his hilarious thoughts on Edward Cullen, these are some actors who admitted to hating their iconic roles.